McDonald's is killing people once again. We gotta love it, you know.
I'm loving it.
When is McDonald's not trying to kill us?
I mean, there's 110 ways they're trying to kill us, and they just came up with a new one.
A new one. They did come up with a new one. So that's what's going to happen right now. McDonald's over here, once again, they do what they do best. Major U.S. fast food chains pulled fresh onions from their menus after onions were identified as the likely cause of E. coli outbreak tied to McDonald's. This outbreak, primarily in the Midwest and some Western states, has already led to at least 75 cases and 1 death, Joey. They got only 1 death. That's pretty weak, bro. I think they need to step up their E. coli game. You need to really get that shit infused.
They seem to be doing okay. They got the fresh onions, which means fresh E. coli. So you think there would be a few more deaths with some fresh E. coli going around. But
I know.
I would say that their onions must not be that fresh. So they need to work on that.
So they're pushing McDonald's to temporarily drop its quarter pounder from 2,800 restaurants. Like, why do you got to drop the whole fucking quarter pounder? Just stop putting onions on it. Just don't put onions on it.
They dropped the whole quarter pounder because of onions.
Yeah. Just stop putting fresh shit on it. Just go to the hydrated onions like you do on your little cheeseburgers and do that, and then you'll be fine. You don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, just make everything fake. Just go the whole fucking thing and just everything fake.
90% of the burger's fucking bullshit anyways. Just take off the other 10% that's legit, like the fresh onions. Just get rid of them.
Americans want full-on bullshit anyways. Just go with it.
I'm pretty sure the bread's made out of plastic, right?
It's made out of shit you should not be putting in your body, that's for sure. So is the beef, and so is all the sauces, onions. Yeah, fuck it. We don't need those.
I just don't get why they have to stop selling quarter pounders altogether because of the onions. Just don't put
that
onions.
Is so weird.
Just don't put onions on the quarter pounder. So I don't know if that was like just a mistake in this report.
Because we worked at McDonald's when we were kids, and you think the onions are separate. The meat doesn't come with the fucking onion. You just don't put them on there.
Exactly. Historically, beef was primarily the source of E. coli outbreaks in fast food, but stringent regulations largely resolved those issues. Now, produce like lettuce and onions presents a greater challenge. Unlike beef, produce isn't cooked, which means any bacteria will still remain. Despite extensive washing and testing, low levels of contamination often slip through. Contamination in produce can stem from various sources, like wildlife feces, Joey, entering the irrigation water, or poor handling practices. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, it's not wildlife feces entering the irrigation water. Yes, it is. I shouldn't say it isn't, but that's probably 20% of it. I agree that poor handling practices is definitely like 80% of the issues at most. And I say this because I worked a decade or more in the food industry as a manager, general manager, and district manager. And I've seen this shit go down with poor handling. The first thing is when you have a corporation, you have franchises. This is how corporations make a lot of their money. They have franchises. For some reason, to offset the percentage that they kick back up to corporate, they always want to take away fucking labor. We get this reduced labor compared to corporate stores. You go to corporate stores, they have a person on every fucking station, and it looks legit, right? This is how they started. They do awesome. But you go into a franchise store, you have an employee that will run 2 stations at a time. So they're handling like the fry station, the burger station. Franchisees always go after labor first because it is one of the bigger costs. We have food and labor. Those are the 2 biggest costs in the food industry. And that's how you make your money. So you have to keep those controlled. It's at a detriment to how the food quality comes out. So imagine this. You have a huge rush, right? And for the most part, management keeps up on it and everything's stocked, everything's flowing, and you're doing pretty well. But for some reason, this day does $2,000 extra in sales. And yes, that does happen for whatever fucking reason, right? Because if you over prep, you have to throw away food and then you lose money. Or if you have too much in there, you carry over that expired food to the next day, which will also cause sickness in people when they eat your food and stuff. And I'm telling you all right now, there's a lot of people that use expired produce on your fucking sandwiches. I've seen so many people change dates for further dates, and then they re-stick it and they lie straight to my face and say, oh, it's because they wrote the wrong date down. That's a load of shit. So, yeah, exactly. But anyways, back to the story. You're in a rush. You're busier than usual. You're already shorthanded because you have to be the feeder station, meaning you're putting everything through the charbroiler, and you're working the line, and you're probably dropping fries also, right? and you're wearing gloves this entire time. You did wash your hands. You did put the gloves on. But think about this. You're touching the handles of all the fry stations. You're opening the lid to the freezer to put the meat on the belt. And you have gloves on. You're safe, bro. Nothing gets on gloves. Gloves just repels bacteria. You didn't know? It never collects anything on there. Anyways, you're making sandwiches. But then you notice, fuck, I'm out of lettuce down below. You look down below, there's no lettuce because we prep it. It's called tempering. We have to warm the product just a little bit before you put it on so it doesn't bring down the temperature of the meat. You notice that there's no produce tempered down below. And you're like, oh, fuck, I need to go get lettuce. You go to the walk-in to grab the lettuce you're not supposed to grab because it's too fucking cold and it's going to bring down the temperature of the meat. Normally with meat, you're pretty safe if you cook it up to 165. It's not the end of the world. But it still brings risk and bacteria to the meat that you're eating when you put that produce onto that sandwich, right? So you go in there, but guess what, Joe? Also, there's no produce prepped in the cooler. So what's the next step? You look over at that beautiful case of heads of lettuce to the left, down there on the rack, and then you go grab one with the same gloves on, by the way. All right, gloves are on. Grab that head of lettuce, and unfortunately, I'm telling you this because of experience. I've seen this. They run to the prepping station that wasn't sanitized. They didn't sanitize the thing. They throw the head of lettuce on there. They grab a knife that also wasn't sanitized. Cut the lettuce. Then you grab the lettuce. You don't even throw it in a pan, or you throw it in the old pan that you had on the line that's been sitting there for 4 hours. So all the nice, beautiful water that's been sitting there still that creates pests and things that come in your restaurant because it's standing water. You throw that in there, and then the lettuce goes on the burgers and goes out to the guest, right?
I like pests.
Bam. There you go. Foodborne illness right there. And that happens so often. Dude, like a lot. I saw it at least once or twice a day when I was visiting restaurants.
Really?
Yes. And granted, it is a management issue, but you can't count for the ridiculous amount of sales you may get at a restaurant. So some of these employees will panic and run and do that shit. That's what will happen. We can go walk into a restaurant right now and we will find this happening. Guaranteed.
Oh, absolutely. It's almost all of them.
I make the argument it's better not to wear gloves when handling food. Here's why. Because you're more inclined to wash your hands more often. When people put on gloves, they act like it's a fucking shield for some reason. They're like, just everything, all the viruses just die when they touch a plastic glove. Is the thinking. It's ridiculous. So
what we do at hospitals, we'll have the gloves right there at the door, but also sanitizer right there. So when you take the gloves off, you can sanitize your hands before you leave. We always are adamant about washing hands between everything you do. But if for whatever reason there's not a sink right there, there's always sanitizer. If you go walk in a hospital, you see sanitizers fucking everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean,
which is good.
It's better than nothing. It's better than doing absolutely nothing.
Hospitals follow these procedures better than hopefully a restaurant does?
Nope.
Oh God. We scrub in for surgeries. I mean, right? Nobody skips out and scrubbing in. Oh God.
I've seen some people.
Oh my God.
I've caught a few people, and I've actually had to say something to them. It does happen. Like they'll go in and do the Avogadro thing, which is like an alcohol-based thing that you could do as long as you've done one scrub at the beginning of the day. If you haven't done that scrub, then you need to still do that scrub. You can't just use that stuff. And I've seen people who just showed up. They just put it on and they're like ready to go. I'm like, I don't think so. You need to do your scrub.
At least with food, you have a fighting chance. It has to go through your system and process, right? Like you have a chance for the acid to burn it down. You have your gut biome, right, that can handle some of the bacteria that comes in. Because no matter what, you're going to have bacteria that's on your food. There's no way around that, but at least your stomach can do it. But you guys are putting your hands straight into them. Into areas that might not be
we're going to skip that step. Put it right in there.
It's fucking ridiculous,
but, there are ways. Like, even the glove thing, like, I get what you're saying, and I definitely have seen that, even in the hospital, at, like, they said, the cafeteria. Like, I'm standing there waiting to get my food, and I see them, like, they got a glove, and they're, like, touching this, touching that. They go to cook. They flip the food on the grill first, and then they turn around, and they put lettuce and this and that on there, and then never change the gloves, never change anything. They pull a knife from down below, like, they pull this out.
Oh man! Like Janice says in the chat, that's what antibiotics are for. Yeah, antibiotics are for human fuck ups.
That does happen all the time.
Yeah,
like, we pierced the bowel. Now they're like shitting in the abdomen because we're fucked up.
Oh,
Antibiotics. Yep, antibiotics. Yep, when the surgeon. Yep, please.
oh no.
Lots of antibiotics.
Oh no.
And people have said that too. They're like, well, I guess I'm gonna have to order some antibiotics for this one. Like, that happens. It does happen.
Fuck,
it does,
bro. The Onion's link to this outbreak came from Taylor Farms facility in Colorado, and McDonald's responded by halting sourcing from the location. This isn't the first time produce has caused an E. coli scare. Wendy's, Taco Bell, and even McDonald's itself have previously faced similar issues with items like lettuce and salads. However, while regulations in the Food Safety Modernization Act of 2011 aim to improve produce safety, experts argue that more consistent standards across produce suppliers are still needed. And here's the thing with produce, it's always been the issue. I'm trying to remember the years that I was at Carl's. So 2011 is when I was there. And we never heard any issue with meat. It was always fucking produce. We always had throwaway lettuce. We always had throwaway tomatoes, onions. It's always that. It was never the meat. It was always the fucking produce every single time. And that was from 2011 till now. And I'm at a new restaurant business and it's the same thing. They keep adding layers of procedures on procedures when the big issue is not even the fucking procedures. It's the management training the employees, holding them accountable to do the fucking procedures. And that's what used to piss me off it still does piss me off in the restaurant business. They're like, oh, that's not working. Let's add a checklist. Like, what the? So now you have a checklist to make sure you do the procedure, right? Then you have another list that makes you go to that checklist to make sure that procedure is being done. Then you go to the charts that tell you how to do the procedure. I'm like, bro, how many fucking layers are you going to put? How about we just train the fucking people? Like, obviously throwing procedures and papers at them is not working. Can we actually take an active role in training the employees? And that's why so many people in management fail, or I had to fire them consistently because of this.
It's so funny how relatable that is to healthcare. That's so relatable. Same fucking thing.
Same thing. Yeah. It's just
same thing.
It's just funny. It's just because it's the people that are higher up. They're not in the fucking restaurant. I remember I had a boss and she would just go into a restaurant one time and not actually know how the operations work and be like, oh, we need a checklist to certify that they actually know what they're doing. I'm like, you know what the manager does? They hand them a stack of paper and say, hey, sign all this real quick because we need to get you on the line really fast. That's the reality of it. That's the fucking reality of it. Or my favorite one, hey, sit in this small little room where everyone has their lunches also, so you're going to be distracted the entire time while people are going in to grab their jacket stuff and watch 8 hours of video. And those 8 hours of videos are about fucking safe food handling, some of them.
Think about who you're hiring. A lot of times you're hiring a lot of young people and you tell them to sit still and watch a video for 8 hours.
That ain't happening.
They lost attention after 30 seconds. All right. They're not paying attention. They're not actually watching that shit.
Yo, I just recently walked into a store and the manager had this employee like watching videos. This just happened this past week. This is how fucking crazy it is. And they were falling asleep watching the videos. So I had to take the manager off to the side and said, oh, what? Have they been when did they start watching videos? Since 7 this morning. I'm like, motherfucker. I could bitch about the restaurant industry for forever. Let's move on. Do you have some wild stories from your days working in a restaurant or a fast food chain? I would love to hear them. Leave those comments down below. Subscribe and hit the bell for notifications. We just enjoy talking about the news and fucking around. So if you enjoy that kind of thing, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. And here is another wild story. I think they painted a panda. It's fucking crazy. Painting a panda. Go figure.